I worked as an emergency dispatcher for 6 years. Most calls followed familiar patterns: accidents, medical emergencies, domestic arguments, and people reporting noises outside their homes. Even unusual calls usually became understandable once police or paramedics arrived. This one never did. At 2:14 one morning, a woman called from a rural road north of town. She sounded calm but disoriented. She said her car had left the road near mile marker 19 and struck a tree. She believed her leg was broken and could not open the driver's door. I asked whether anyone else was inside the vehicle. She said her daughter was in the back seat but was not responding. I alerted emergency services and asked the woman to keep talking. She identified herself as Rachel and described a silver car facing the trees, partly concealed by a ditch. Then she asked me to tell the responders not to approach from behind. I asked why. She said there was a man standing behind the car. Rachel could only see him in the rearview mirror. He had appeared after the accident and had not moved since. She had called out to him, but he did not answer. I told her to remain inside and wait for help. The connection began breaking up. Before the call ended, she repeated one sentence several times: "Please don't let him open the back door." Police reached mile marker 1911 minutes later. They found no accident. There were no damaged trees, tire marks, or pieces of glass. Officers searched the ditch and the surrounding road. They found nobody. We tried calling Rachel back, but the number did not exist. Our system had recorded the incoming call without identifying a network or registered device. At 3:02, we received another call. A motorist reported a collision near mile marker 19. A silver car had left the road and struck a tree. The driver was a woman named Rachel. Her young daughter was in the back seat. Both survived, although Rachel suffered a serious leg injury. The daughter was unconscious when paramedics arrived, but began breathing normally during transport. I listened to the original call again. Rachel's voice was unmistakably the same. Police asked her whether she had called us before the accident. She said she had not. Her phone had been destroyed in the collision, and the crash happened almost 40 minutes after we first heard from her. I also asked whether she remembered seeing someone behind the car. Rachel became quiet. She said that immediately before losing control, her daughter had pointed through the rear window and asked why a man was sitting beside her. There had been nobody else in the car. The original recording remained in our system for several months. Then the audio disappeared during a software update, although none of the other calls from that night were lost. I still remember Rachel's final warning, not because the accident happened exactly as she described it, because when police reviewed photographs from the crash, they noticed that the rear passenger door was open. Nobody could explain who had opened it. Official 1's Chapter 2, The Woman in the Smoke. My cousin was a volunteer firefighter in a small coastal town. One winter night, his team responded to a fire in an isolated house. A neighbor had seen smoke coming from an upstairs window and called emergency services. The house belonged to an elderly man named Arthur. Arthur was standing outside when the firefighters arrived. He told them he lived alone and believed the fire had started in an upstairs bedroom. My cousin entered with another firefighter. The smoke was thick, but the flames were limited to the back of the house. While searching the ground floor, my cousin heard a woman shouting upstairs.
She called for help twice. Both firefighters heard her. They informed the team outside that there might be another person in the building. Arthur insisted nobody else was inside, but the firefighters continued upwards. At the top of the stairs, they saw a woman standing at the end of the corridor.
She wore a pale nightdress and appeared to be shielding her face from the smoke. She pointed towards a closed bedroom door. Then she stepped backwards and disappeared into the darkness. My cousin followed. He opened the bedroom and found Arthur's dog unconscious beneath the window. He carried it outside, where another firefighter managed to revive it. They searched the entire upper floor. No woman was found. After the fire was extinguished, the team assumed she must have escaped through another exit. Police searched the property and surrounding fields, but there were no footprints in the frost and no sign that anyone had left the house, and Arthur continued saying he lived alone. My cousin described the woman to him. Arthur asked whether she had been wearing a pale nightdress with small flowers around the collar. My cousin said she had. Arthur went inside his neighbor's house and returned with an old photograph. The woman in the photograph matched the person they had seen upstairs. She was Arthur's wife, Margaret. Margaret had died 12 years earlier. Arthur explained that the back bedroom had once been hers. After her death, he rarely entered it. The dog, however, often slept there. The fire investigation found that an electrical fault had started inside the wall beside the bedroom. If the firefighters had reached the room even a few minutes later, the dog probably would not have survived. My cousin does not describe what happened as a ghost story. He says smoke, exhaustion, and poor visibility can make people misinterpret what they see. But 2 firefighters heard the same voice. Both saw the same woman. Both watched her point towards the room containing the dog. Months later, Arthur sent the fire station a thank you card. Inside, he included a copy of Margaret's photograph. On the back, he had written, "She always went back for the dog. She always went back for the dog." Months later, Ferdinand Liao, Chapter 3, Channel 6. I spent 2 summers working at a national park. My job involved maintaining trails, checking signs, and reporting hazards to the ranger station. Every employee carried a radio because mobile reception was unreliable. We normally communicated on Channel 2. Channel 6 was reserved for search and rescue operations and was rarely used outside emergencies. One afternoon, I was inspecting a trail near the northern boundary when my radio switched to Channel 6 by itself. A male voice said, "Station, I found the boy." The transmission was weak and filled with static. I responded and asked the speaker to identify himself. The voice replied, "Ranger Cole, Northern Fire Road." I contacted the station on Channel 2. The supervisor told me no search was in progress and nobody named Cole currently worked at the park. Then the voice returned. He said the boy was injured and needed medical assistance. He gave directions to an abandoned fire road less than 2 kilometers from my position. The supervisor instructed me not to investigate alone. 2 rangers were sent to meet me. While I waited, Cole continued transmitting. His voice became increasingly urgent. He repeatedly said the boy was getting cold. When the other rangers arrived, we followed the directions. The fire road was almost completely overgrown. After 20 minutes, we found the remains of an old observation shelter. Nobody was inside. One ranger noticed a child's red backpack beneath a collapsed section of the roof. The backpack looked new. Inside, we found food, a water bottle, and an identification card belonging to a 12-year-old boy. The boy had been reported missing that morning from a campsite on the opposite side of the park. The station immediately organized a search. We found him approximately 300 meters from the shelter. He had fallen down a steep slope and injured his ankle. He was cold and frightened but alive. The boy said a ranger had found him earlier. The ranger had told him to remain where he was while he called for help. He wore an older green uniform and introduced himself as Cole. Park records showed that Daniel Cole had been a ranger there 27 years earlier. He disappeared while searching for a missing child near the Northern Fire Road. Neither Cole nor the child was ever found. After that incident, employees occasionally monitored Channel 6. We never heard Cole again. Before leaving at the end of the summer, I visited the park's archive and found his personnel photograph. It showed a young man in the old green uniform described by the rescued boy. The archivist showed me something else. Colnum's radio had been recovered during a controlled burn 5 years after he disappeared. Its battery was missing. The radio was still locked inside an evidence cabinet on the day we heard his voice. The rescued boy was asked what Ranger Cole had said before leaving him. The boy remembered only one thing. Cole had looked towards the abandoned fire road and said, "This time, they'll know where to find you."